This bonus episode was recorded at the most recent Eastern Region Convention in Hampton, Virginia, with a good fraternity brother and mentor, Brother Ramon Peralta. During this bonus episode, we discussed the importance of personal branding and how you can launch your own brand. So hopefully this is a great episode. It's informative, and it's something that you will take a lot of gems away from after you listen to. So enjoy the episode. Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone's a special guest. I'm joined by my good brother, Ramon Peralta. Now, the funny thing is, he's already been a guest on my podcast way back in the day. I think that's how we met, online, virtually. And this is the first time we actually met each other in person at a Alpha convention here in Hampton, Virginia. So, Brother Peralta, can you just give the listeners a little bit of background on who you are?
Yes, well, I'm the founder and CEO of Peralta Design, and we launch brands, and we are a marketing agency partner for businesses, and we provide the rocket fuel for businesses through branding, web development, and digital marketing.
And that's really interesting because I was saying before we got on this podcast is that I felt like I already knew you virtually before I met you.
Yes.
And I think that kind of aligns with the philosophy that you're talking about, launching brands, personal brands. Can you go to that, like, you know, that notion of how you carry yourself and hearing the words like, Ramon, no, you're exactly the person I thought I met virtually. Yeah,
well, that's about being authentic, being congruent in all platforms, in all aspects of your life. Jeff Bezos famously is quoted as saying, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And I think during the pandemic, we became close because we had so many opportunities through our publications committee to see each other every couple of weeks. And just being authentically you wherever you present is probably the best way to build your brand, because that starts to establish that consistency, which ultimately is what builds trust in any brand.
So when you thought about that and the way you carry yourself, and I know you're a businessman, you have a book that we're going to talk about a little bit, launching your brand, launch your brand. So do you actually thought to yourself, like, write down on a piece of paper, who is the person I want to be, and then really kind of like make like a business statement, or was it, I guess, like a PR person for you as a person? You know, because I know a lot of companies say our colors and all that. Did you kind of do that for yourself? Like, who do I want to be, like, as a person?
Well, I mean, in my experience, prior to starting Peralta Design, I was on the team that started Priceline, and Priceline was one of 400 patents that we were trying to turn into businesses, and they often started out by identifying who our target audience was, what problems were we solving, and in that startup space, I really honed in on the skill set behind branding and launching. And when I found myself laid off in 2008, I realized I need to now launch my own brand, and I dedicated my company to helping others launch theirs. And in doing so, I have kind of perfected this system and this process and this methodology that I've basically taken cues. I mean, the blueprints are out there. You know, you follow someone or a company that you aspire to be like, and follow that blueprint. It's called the halo effect. And I've learned from many, many people, and what I've done with this book is kind of condensed all my lessons, some that I've learned on my own through mistakes, and some that I've learned from mentors, some that I've learned from other businesses, and put them in a easy to follow guidebook, if you will, that's essentially the flight plan, right? If we use that metaphor of the rocket, that's going to help you personally launch your brand as an individual, as a nonprofit, as an organization, or as a business.
So I like the words launch and rockets, right? Blasting off, taking off. but sometimes rockets blast off and they crash, right?
Yes.
So what's the part where it transitions from just launching to sustainable, like orbit,
Right.
orbit?
And to continue flying at a higher altitude. Absolutely. I think a lot of us kind of get the business going and then it fizzles out just like a rocket would. And it's basically, what I'm going to share right now is the golden ratio of content. And content is king for any brand, even if it's a person or an organization or a business. And we have this beautiful internet, right? It's our playground. It's a place where we can all self-publish like you're doing with this podcast. And you want to continue to consistently put out content, but it can't always be promotional. That's the biggest mistake people make. 80% of your content should not be promotional. And the ratio there is people go online to learn, to be educated, or to be entertained. They don't go online to be sold to. Yeah. And too many people do that, and they unfollow, or they don't post consistently enough that they ever build any momentum. Because if we're using that same metaphor, you also have to have momentum, right? That inertia. So I recommend people put 50% of their content be information or education. It doesn't have to be original content. You could be sharing other articles that you've read. The other 30% should be entertainment. What fun things are you doing? What's the culture like? What are you into? Maybe a joke or two, right? And then 20% should be, hey, here are my products and services. This is how you can reach me. But people get that backward.
I love it because now I'm thinking about that. I do post consistently on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I do definitely found organic following on LinkedIn because I know people know that when they add me on LinkedIn that I'm not going to immediately sell them or something.
Yes.
I'm going to be very curious and I'm going to report back about adhering to that ratio because I don't know if it is as educational.
Yes.
So what has been, like when you hear the feedback, like I've said this multiple times, like, you are exactly the person that I met virtually as in person. And I think you can say the same. I'm just as goofy.
Yeah.
And so why is that really
By the way, I
important
think we're about the same height.
Yeah.
Because you were concerned about presenting shorter in person.
Yeah, but I got the bush that's uneven that gives me about an inch.
Okay.
Yeah, and this mustache that,
Right, gotcha.
At the end of this season 2, I will have a Jerry curl. But like, why is that congruence important? That's a very important thing.
Because think of it this way. Let's say you see McDonald's, the Golden Arches. Yeah. When you see them, you can almost taste the fries. You're in Virginia. Yeah. If you were to drive cross country and find the Golden Arches in California, you can almost guarantee yourself those fries are going to taste exactly the same. That's brand trust. That's consistency. Now, if you approach that McDonald's and the arches were blue or purple, you might question yourself, do they even sell Big Macs in here because this does not look familiar? So it's very important that on the most basic level, whether it be your sign-off, your hashtags, your color palette, your headshot, just as simple as having the same headshot on multiple platforms begins to build trust in your brand. Because people are like, okay, that is the same guy. But if you're Philly Phil on Facebook and Phil Wilkerson III on LinkedIn and Phil Mack, on Twitter, you have no brand consistency. And if your voice is jovial on one and serious on another and sarcastic on another, you might as well be 3 different people. And if you're trying to be out there to be clandestine, then congratulations, that's going to work. But if you're trying to build your brand and you're trying to build following and you're trying to build credibility, then you need to be consistent on all social media platforms because we meet people where they are. And if you're B2B, you need to be on LinkedIn. If your target audience are families, then Facebook. If your target audience is millennials, then TikTok. But you've got to kind of start with, who am I trying to reach?
I love it. I mean, honestly, I did not know that you knew about my rap career when I was Philly Mac. But, that was in the past. I had 3 singles. They didn't go anywhere.
No, but you used to perform with Ice JJ Fish, right?
Yes, I was actually better. I was his opener.
Okay.
I was opener for him. But the thing, I like that consistency part and like the assumption that if you go to McDonald's, you should taste the same fries. Right. And the thing that popped in my head was like, if you go to a McDonald's and it's off, right? Yeah. You give them the benefit of the doubt because like consistency said, well, maybe that's just that one McDonald's that's off. And so I'm thinking about myself as a person, the personality, the tone, that if it is consistent, that when you have off days, or you're not feeling 100%, it's not all like, I like to say like, I'm a kind person.
Yeah.
But what if someone met me on a grumpy day, right? But consistently. So can we talk about like, how does that, like, does being consistent can challenge those times where you don't have to be perfect or be the same every day?
No, because it comes down to being authentic.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're authentic, that matters more than if you're pretending to be nice every time somebody meets you, or pretending to be a certain way. You won't pass the sniff test, and that can ruin your credibility, because people are like, "Oh, this guy's a chameleon. He's just, the used car salesman, tactic is frowned upon because it's known to be sleazy. It's fake. It's phony." And oftentimes we can make the mistake of trying to be somebody else or trying to be something we're not, and people can see right through that. But if you're human, if you stumble, if you fail, if you make a mistake, if you do erupt someplace, it's no problem at all and totally human to say, you know what, I'm human, I made a mistake. I'm making my amends. I went back to that establishment and, I apologize, whatever it was. That's going to go further to building your brand than you pretending like you're something you're not.
So I love it. So, I think we have a couple minutes. You're selling your book, maybe, and I want you to talk about that, but we're going to call this a mini episode, and I think I'm actually going to just release it very soon.
Yes.
One thing I think about is you're launching brands on a very macro scale. Have you ever had to pull someone aside and say, yo, I need to be your individual brand manager, and like really do a workshop? Like, I see you doing it with companies and organizations, but have you ever had to do it with the individual? Like,
I do one-on-one consultations as well.
For like how a person wants to carry themselves.
I can do them while we're walking. I've met some brothers here, brothers that are pastors that may have an online ministry that doesn't really align with their brick and mortar ministry, and they're wondering, well, what can they do? And I'll just give you an example of a consult that I gave to the gentleman here, brother, who, while we were walking, I said to him, you're putting out a weekly ministry online on Facebook. He live streams it. I said, what you need to do is record that, right? Since you're already streaming it, and post it on a YouTube channel. So create a YouTube channel out of that same piece of content. And on that YouTube channel, you can add your logo to the beginning of the episode and add it to the end. We call those bookends. And have a call to action at the end. Maybe it's like, subscribe, come to my church, whatever your call to action might be. But now that logo aligns with the logo from your church. And you can also extract audio from that episode and put that on a podcast. You can also take that. He does a 45-minute sermon every Sunday. I said, you can pull out the best 60 seconds of that sermon, and now you have some social media content where you can say, hey, guys, guess what? I do this every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Log on to Facebook, tag me. I'll shout out to you. And he does tithing through there. He does a Cash App. I mean, it's very well done, but he's concerned that it's not really going towards his brand because it's now kind of like an orphan. It's a widow. It's on its own. And when you're building a brand, you want to integrate these. It's okay to have multiple verticals and multiple streams. And a whole suite of services or products, but there has to be some continuity from one to the other to show a relationship. We call those like having a family of brands. So having breadcrumb trails between your pieces, and maybe he's the constant in between all of these. But I often do these individual consultations. I also consult cohorts. I consult organizations, career centers. In many ways, I feel like I'm preaching the ministry of branding.
I love it. Well, I think that's a perfect segue. Can we, just share a little bit about your latest book?
Yes.
How people can find it and a little bit about it.
Yes.
I'm here at the convention. We're actually, if you hear all this background noise, we were actually at a convention, and his book is selling like hotcakes. I don't even know why people say hotcakes, but it's a phrase.
It sells quite a bit.
He's selling the book. He's doing it. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so the book's called Launch Your Brand. It can be found at launchyourbrandbook.com. It's based on a series that I provide, a workshop series called Brand University. And it's basically the blueprint or the flight plan, if you will, for launching your own brand. And it takes you through 3 stages. The first stage, if you think of it in the form of a rocket, the top of the rocket is the branding, and that's going to consist of your brand identity and your brand messaging, your storytelling, your unique narrative as a way to differentiate your business. Then the hull of the ship, if you will, is the digital footprint. That encompasses your website and basically anything you might find if someone were to Google you. What does your LinkedIn profile look like? Your Facebook, are they in alignment? And then lastly, the engines. of this ship, of your business, is the digital marketing. And we talk about how can you raise awareness either through email marketing, either through Google Ads, or even advertising on Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. So within that book, there's also some case studies, where you can learn from companies that might be similar to you, what unique aspects or attributes that they highlight. And also you'll learn the story of how I went from being laid off and being what I call the reluctant entrepreneur to running a multi-million-dollar agency, in less than 15 years.
It's amazing. Well, this is the part of the show. I mean, we don't get a chance to do shot for shot because we actually have a line out here, people lining up to try to sell his book, so I want to hold his time. So, Brother Peralta, you know how my show goes. Shout outs and plugs. So, shout out, show love to anyone you want to show love to, and then plugs, ways that people can engage with you, follow you, connect with you.
Yeah, I want to shout out the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha. This is an amazing convention. I want to shout out Brother Christopher Ellis, who put this all together. He's the president of the Eastern Region. The Brothers of Virginia have been hospitable and just been gracious hosts. And I want to thank you, Brother Phil, for this opportunity to be on your show.
Well, thank you so much. Well, as you know, every episode is dedicated in memory to my late father-in-law, who is the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund. So please take a note. I put that in every show note to honor him, someone I really miss a lot. Thank you so much. And go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to shout out my team back home that's holding down the fort. They're all at PeraltaDesign.com. It's an amazing team that allows me the freedom to go out here and spread this gospel of branding.
Awesome. So please check out this episode. Please support Brother Peralta and his ventures. Please support his company, Peralta Designs, and all those things. And like, subscribe, share this episode, give it a rating on Apple or iTunes, and thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.